Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing another premiere draft of Shadows over Innistrad Remastered. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. Not a super great rare here today. Hanweir Battlements is just a land that can give something haste till end of turn, doesn't really do anything else. Kind of weird to see that as the only rare, because I've had packs before that have had one regular rare and a rare in the double face slot, and a rare in the Shadows in the Past slot. I guess this is the double faced card and this is the rare. That's what's going on there. Okay, interesting. I thought if you got a double faced rare, then that wouldn't take up your rare slot, but I guess there could just be two. Anyways, let's get into the draft here. I think I'm going to take Thraben Inspector. Really flexible, powerful monocolored card. The other options for flexible, powerful monocolored cards are Galvanic Bombardment for removal, Kindly Stranger for a Delirium deck. That is a little less flexible because you do need to draft a lot of cards to get Delirium to work consistently, but Thraben Inspector is an incredible value play in any white deck. I've played this in blue-white Spirits decks multiple times, which are where it doesn't even have any inherent synergy, and it's still a great value play, making sure you get to curve out throughout the game, as well as draw a card later on. So I really like Thraben Inspector, and this pack is incredible for us because we can take a second Thraben Inspector, or we can take a Town Gossip Monger, which is just a really quick little beat stick, or we can take a Courageous Outrider and start going in a human-focused direction, which is another really good value play. A 4-mana 3/4 that draws an additional human out of the top 4 cards of your library. Tons of human creatures in the format, primarily in white and green, but really any deck that has a lot of white cards can run a ton of humans. So I like Outrider a lot, I like Inspector a lot, I like Gossip Monger a lot. All of these are phenomenal. I'm actually going to go for Outrider. I haven't got to play with this one yet, and I think it's a great value play. On turn 4, let's grab Courageous Outrider. And this is still week 1 of the format as of the recording of this video, which means that the Shadows of the Past are focused on creature types, so there are some cards in the Shadows of the Past that will help our humans be a little bit better. So Ghoul Raiser, obviously, from the Shadows of the Past, that's for zombies. That doesn't help us, but who knows? We could get some human-focused cards. There's a Daring Sleuth here, which is really good if we can sacrifice a clue token to flip it. It also does fit the human archetype, because it is a human creature on both halves of the card. So this goes with Thraben Inspector pretty decently. I could also just take Spectral Shepherd, but it looks like either card I take, I'm heading into blue at this point. Could also take Deadweight, maybe go for white-black. That's a decent early game removal spell. And if we wheel that 3-mana 3/2 human that picks up an aura or an equipment from our graveyard, that card works really well with Deadweight. So those are the options here. I think I will go with Deadweight. We'll see if we can go into black-white here maybe and wheel that card that recurs an aura or equipment. That would be pretty phenomenal. Pack 1, pick 4. Nothing much here. Jace's Scrutiny is decent value as an investigate spell. Some filler creatures. Byway Courier is a pretty good one. It is also a human to go with our Courageous Outrider. Maybe we go for Byway Courier here. Potentially head to white-green humans. Yeah, I like Bloodseeker a lot and Madness decks, but that's pretty far off from how we're starting here unless I pivot off of white completely. Have Bloodseeker and Deadweight towards red-black vampires, red-black madness. I think I'd rather stick with our white cards for now and take a Byway Courier. We could end up in white-green or white-black. Still make great use of the white cards. I don't love Foul Bloods. Necropod's pretty slow. Liliana's Elite is very, very slow. Really don't like Embry Wolf. Not a fan of the Arsonists either. They're again slow for the cost, as is Laboratory Brute. Best cards in this pack. Honestly, there are no cards in this pack that I like outside of Stromkirk Occultist and Jace's Scrutiny, and those are just both okay. I'll go for the Jace's Scrutiny here. I guess we could take a Puncturing Light so we know we have an early game removal spell, but it's not super flexible. There are other removal spells in white that I like a lot better. I'll just take a Scrutiny here. Alright, I do like Haunted Dead a good bit. I really like it in Madness, but even outside of a Madness archetype, a 4-mana 2/2 that comes with a 1/1 flyer and has the ability to potentially recur later, it's not that bad. Even if we're not getting value off the Madness ability. So I think I'll take Haunted Dead here. roll with that one. Definitely some open red-black madness stuff for sure. Okay. Got a Battleground Geist for blue-white spirits. That is an archetype I have been playing quite a bit. So I am pretty familiar. We could also just take Accomplice for this black-white deck we might be heading towards. I think I'll take Accomplice. Don't really want to go for blue-white spirits again here, but I think a pivot towards that would also be fine. But I kind of like the idea of just black-white value, black-white mid-range / humans. And the Ghoul Caller's Accomplice is a human to get drawn off of the Courageous Outrider. Pick 8, we can take an Olivia's Dragoon here, so if we pull out any black madness cards, we have a way to discard them, outside of just the Haunted Dead. So it's going to make just cards like Geese's Bidding a lot more valuable pickups later on. Pack 1, pick 9. Not much in here, but I don't think there was much in here from the start. Take that Blood Mad Vampire if we start wheeling all the red-black madness cards. Have this Dragoon and Haunted Dead start pivoting us into red-black madness. Cathar is a pretty fine 2-drop though. Want to be open to pivot or just stick to the white because Inspector Outrider is great? Yeah, I'll take the Cathar. Next pack is where all the good white cards are, so we'll see if one of them wheels. That's where we can really see if we're okay in white. Alright, none of the white cards came back. That is a very bad sign. I think this was the pack that they were all in. That being said, it looks like, I mean, none of these other cards are super playable. Geist is okay for blue-white spirits, Unhallowed's okay for zombies, but they're both really filler. Yeah, these are all significantly worse than the white cards that were in this pack, so I guess the pack just wasn't deep enough for all those white cards. And we did wheel Apothecary Geist and Spectral Shepherd. Could be good. I think I take the Shepherd first, but I do really like the Geist as well. But I think I do need to be open to moving out of white here eventually. Got some mana fixers if we end up doing anything super splashy. Traveler's Amulet and Wildfield Scarecrow in that direction. Murderer's Axe just seems way too inefficient, as does the Brute. Necropod doesn't seem good, but maybe it's okay. Top-end filler. These both don't seem great. Compelling Deterrence for blue. Alright, this rare is not very good. Just a 1-mana 2/1. Gives all of your other vampires madness, which is cool, but it just gets blocked by 1/1s pretty quickly. Trades off into anything, gets walled off by 2/3s. Doesn't stay relevant particularly long. There is another Ironclad Slayer, but we didn't wheel the last one, which is kind of a bad sign. We're going for that. There's another Thraben Inspector as well. If our white cards are good enough and we just take the white cards really early and then scoop up the black cards later on, that could keep us in this archetype decently. There's honestly nothing great outside of black-white here, although Pour of the Pages is pretty good. Pour of the Pages is probably the strongest card. I think the top 3 are probably the Pour Over the Pages, the Inspector, and the Gorger. I do think Inspector is better than Ironclad Slayer because it's a much more consistent card. If I turn one Deadweight and play the Slayer later, yes, that's going to play better than Inspector, but that's not going to happen every game, whereas Inspector will just always hit that value. I'm going to take Inspector here. All right, and we get a collective effort. There we go. Solid, flexible card. Destroy a creature's power 4 or greater. Destroy an enchantment. Put a counter on all our creatures. Seems good if we're heavy enough in white for it, which I think we will be. I think I'm going to just stick to it here. Stick to my guns. Not do anything super pivoty today. Solid red burn spells here. Those are probably the strongest cards in the pack. Tied with the collective effort. But that card's quite strong as well. Pack 2, pick 3. Nothing in white and nothing in black. I guess I take the Spirit Rare in blue because it's the strongest card. But that was just kind of an unfortunate pack. Just did not have cards in our colors, and now we do have an Ironclad Slayer to go with our Deadweight. Especially if I can pick up more copies, that'll be great. I think that is the best pickup here. Certain Death is also fine. Pretty slow removal spell, but it can kill anything in the late game. Rather just grab the Ironclad Slayer for now. Alright, Angelic Purge is another removal spell that can kill anything. we are going to neglect this heirloom. We don't have any transform cards. Alright, we're getting some goodies in pack 2, which is very nice. Nearheath Chaplain's a great card. 4 mana for a 3/1 lifelinker. You can spend 3 mana and exile it from your graveyard to get 2 more 1/1 spirits. So it's going to be potentially 3 bodies off of just 1 card. Costs a lot of mana to do it, but it gives you that lifelink to keep you in the game. In any racing positions, take an Angelic Purge again. Looks like a very reasonable deck here. Very average, nothing super explosive going on. But it's fine. Like a mid-range pile. Guess we'll keep those cards in for now, but the Traveler's Amulet and the Wildfield Scarecrow will be a couple of the first cuts if we stick to just 2 colors. Alright, pack 2, pick 8. I think Dauntless Cathar is a decent value play. 3/2, not the greatest for 3 mana, but we do get another 1/1 flyer out of it eventually. A lot of stats for 1 card, even if it is a lot of mana to get all those stats. Take that here. Biting Rain could be pretty good in the right matchup. Pretty bad in the wrong one. I don't think Gavity Unhallowed, Ghoul Razor, or Devilthorn Fox do much in this deck. Yeah, I'll take a Biting Rain. I don't know about that one. I just don't feel like anything there is gonna really get run. Lunarch Mantle's okay. Faithbearer's okay. Cryptolith Fragment is okay. Gives us more fixing. Sure. Pick up a Fragment. Now a Skeleton. Hoping to get some sweet stuff out of pack 3, but luckily... I'm not a huge fan of Fiendbinder because the 2 toughness is a bit rough on a 4 mana card. Yeah, deck doesn't look great right now, but luckily we have 23 cards, so our entire pack 3, this is already a full deck. This would be a very below average, pretty mediocre deck to just sleeve up and get into the gameplay, but we have a whole pack to make the deck better. We've already got the quantity of cards we need. Let's just up that quality in pack number 3. Get a second copy of Deadweight to go with our Ironclad Slayer and give us more cheap removal. Don't mind if I do. Could also splash in a Burn from Within off of Wildfield, Fragment, and Amulet. That would be fine. But it is just X damage to a single target, so it's just going to be 1 very expensive removal spell, or potentially win the game out of nowhere, which is nice to have that flexibility, but if this ends up having to be a removal spell, it's just going to be a single inefficient removal spell. Spend like 8 mana, or not 8 mana, spend like, 4 mana to kill a 3 toughness thing, 5 mana to kill a 4 toughness thing. So yeah, unless we're really banking on shooting our opponent in the face, it's not the craziest card ever. But it is good. I think Deadweight is just better for the deck. We don't have to do any splashing to get it in there. I'm not going to play another copy of Biting Rain. I think I'll play another Ghoulcaller's Accomplice, though. That seems fine. Also, Harvest Hand could be okay, because we've got a lot of humans in here, so this will be +1/+1 Menace. The 3 mana 2/2 starting stats are pretty bad, though. And I do want more 2-drops. I'll take the Accomplice, actually. Cut that Epitaph Golem now. Cut the Traveler's Amulet. Now we're working to cut Wildfield Scarecrow and Cryptolith Fragment. Alright, Prized Amalgam is not really worth splashing, it just comes back from the grave to the board, if anything else does. We only have 1 card that works with it, which is Haunted Dead. So it's not worth a splash. Just take the Topplegeist here, nice cheap flyer that can tap a creature when we play it, and if we hit Delirium, can keep doing that. So that does make Wildfield Scarecrow a little more exciting, but we should be decent at triggering Delirium late in the game anyway, because we can get a creature in the grave, an enchantment in the grave, a sorcery in the grave, and with 2 copies of Angelic Purge, we can even sacrifice a land to get a land into the grave, or discard a land to Dragoon, so should be decent at triggering Delirium spells later into the game. I've got 2 ways to discard a card, Haunted Dead and Olivia's Dragoon. Not a lot for the Geese's bidding, but still 4 mana for 2 2/2s is not bad if we just pay the upfront cost. Could also take Midnight Scavengers here. Decent value play, 5 mana 3/3, return one of our other cards. Probably actually go for Scavengers, just a much more consistent card. Fills out the top end a little more, which we are lacking in. Take a third Deadweight. 7 mana 4/5 flyer is pretty bad. 5 mana 4/5 flyer is pretty good. But gotta hit Delirium really consistently to make the card good. I'd rather just take a card we know will always be good. Grab a Deadweight. Merciless Resolve is an okay late game draw spell. Sack a land, draw 2. Gives us a way to get that Delirium going as well. Elder Cathar is also fine in a human-focused deck. 2 mana or 3 mana 2/2 dies into 2+ and +1 counters. Still kind of inefficient because the upfront body's not very good, but maybe it's better than Merciless Resolve. Yeah, I only have 17 creatures. Let's actually grab another creature here. Elder Cathar. Yeah, I don't love the Necropod. I already got one certain death. I don't think I'm running 2. I'll just take a Drog Skull Shieldmate here. It's a nice little surprise blocker. You can kill a 2 mana 2/2 that's attacking you. I'm not going to try to kill anybody with Triskaidekaphobia. That's a little hard to do. I am not good enough at math to be playing around with that kind of nonsense. So I guess we'll take that Merciless Resolve here. Potentially. Nothing in the pack. Haunted Fengraf is a land we can get into our grave to trigger Delirium. We really only have one Delirium card though, so the colorless, the fact that it taps for colors is a pretty big downside. We're gonna have 2 double black cards maybe with double Biting Rain. I really don't think I actually want Biting Rain that bad. I'll just play another 2 mana 2/2. Well, we got the Graph Rats Midnight Scavengers combo, which is hilarious. Graph Rats is so bad by itself, just a 2 mana 2/1, but I'm going to run it anyway. You can't stop me. So if I ever get my Rats and my Midnight Scavengers together, that will be a thing. It'll be hilarious. Alright, don't love how this draft went, but it's okay. We've got a consistent deck, we've got a curve of creatures, got a bunch of removal spells. We just don't have any bombs, we don't have anything explosive going on, we don't have massive synergies. Just a very average limited deck that looks like the kind of thing you could expect to see in almost any format. Nothing really specific to this format or the archetypes here. Just a fine average deck. Creature counts at 20, you can definitely cut some of those. I'm keeping the Rats for sure, so Guardian of Pilgrims seems like the most likely. 2 mana cut. 3 mana, I don't like this Elder Cathar too much. Or this Shepherd. Apothecary Geist without enough spirits to gain the life seems pretty bad, but I like all the other 4-drops. Scavengers is good, and Necropod is not great. Don't love Biting Rain because that kills basically all my stuff. 5, 6 cuts. One more card, cut one of the resolves. Run 17 lands because in the late game we're going to be sacking lands to resolve and double purge. So we have a use for those extra lands, plus we have a 6-drop to get to. I think this is just straight up the deck. Black, white, mid-range, value town nonsense. Sure. Alright, here's a look at the deck list we're going to be playing with today. This is a black-white value town deck. Just a very consistent curve of creatures and a ton of solid removal. Nothing super fancy, super explosive going on. We don't really have any bombs, we don't have any massive synergies, but we are just trying to grind out the game with a lot of nice value plays. Double Thraben Inspector to start it off gets us curving out and lets us draw some cards later in the game. Triple Deadweight are great cheap removal that combo with our Ironclad Slayer, so that if we play an Ironclad Slayer, most of the time we will have a Deadweight in our graveyard to pick up, making this a 3 mana 3/2 that draws us a removal spell in a lot of games, which is super sweet. Bunch of 2-drops on curve. Some of them are good value plays like the Accomplice that can replace itself with another 2/2 later on from the grave. 3 mana we have Cathar that can replace itself with a 1/1 flyer later on. And at 4 mana, we have the Outrider that draws us a card when it hits the board, the Nearheath Chaplain that replaces itself with more creatures from the grave, and the Haunted Dead that can keep coming back from the grave when we're flooding out. We also have Midnight Scavengers at 5 mana that's going to pick up a creature from our grave, put it back in our hand when we play it, and if we have our random 2 mana 2/1 Graph Rats, we could even meld these together. I couldn't resist. It's probably better to just not play the rats, but going to be really cool if we can flip them together, so I'm going to play both halves of that. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of ways to go up in value a little bit here. If we can grind out a long game and not just get absolutely steamrolled by some kind of scary bomb, because we don't really have any scary bombs of our own. So we do have a lot of good removal to try to stop our opponents from just absolutely rolling over us. We have 3 Deadweight, 2 Angelic Purge. Ideally, we use these later in the game, sacking a land, but we can also sack a clue token to an Inspector or sack like a 1/1 Spirit we might have gotten off of one of our cards. Collective Effort is probably the strongest card in the deck, being able to blow up a big creature and or an enchantment and or put a counter on our whole board. And then we also have Certain Death for just another piece of late game removal. So as I said before, as long as we're not getting steamrolled here, we can grind out a long game. We're drawing extra cards off Inspectors. We are replacing our creatures with more creature tokens with cards like Accomplice and Cathar and Haunted Dead, getting 2-for-1s on Enter the Battlefield effects like Ironclad Slayer, Courageous Outrider, Chaplain replacing itself when it dies, Midnight Scavengers picking something up when it hits the board. We are just trying to out-card advantage our opponent with Graveyard Recursion and other graveyard effects. So we'll go ahead and see how it does as we head into the gameplay. Here we are for game 1. We do get to curve out here. 1 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop, 4 drop is going to be the line. Here's our 1 mana 1/1 flyer. Let's get in there. I love how the guys are just going boop. Just knocking a candle over. It's pretty cute. Alright, we're going to have to play our 2/2 to block the 1/1 well to keep that off of us. 1/1 lifelink, they can sack a creature to put a counter on all their vampires, so that can be really scary later on. I think I'll send everybody in. I think Aristocrat's probably a decent enough effect that I'll offer the trade with Graph Rats if they attack with everyone here. I'll trade my 2/1 into their 1/1 lifelinker that has some extra upside. Again, we are a deck that's trying to grind out a long game, so I think trading off pretty early is fine. Keep their stuff from popping off. Stensium Masquerade, and never mind, we can't block pretty much ever now. And every time we don't block, they get counters. Yeah, not a super interactive enchantment. When your entire board has First Strike, kind of just shuts off blocks. Could Angelic Purge the Masquerade. They don't have First Strike anymore, nor do they get +1/+1 counters. But I'd have to sack a land to do that well right now, because I don't really want to lose any of these creatures. Maybe I'd have to sack Topplegeist. Really don't want to sack a land and then not have the 4 mana for the Nearheath Chaplain. If I don't get rid of the Masquerade or the Aristocrat, they're going to have a lifelinker on the board that just keeps getting bigger, which is going to be pretty much impossible to race. So I think I have to purge something. I guess I could sack the Accomplice, because I can get another 2/2 out of it later from the grave. I can keep the land for the Nearheath Chaplain. Ay. Yeah, I'm gonna purge the Masquerade. Hold the Graph Rats up to trade into the Aristocrat. Definitely an argument for sacking a land to the Purge, because it gets us to 2 out of 4 for Delirium, and then as soon as one of our creatures dies, we're at 3 out of 4. So it gets us really close to Delirium, but the fact that it holds off our near Heath Chaplain if we don't hit a land is pretty risky in my mind. Well, now I hit a Haunted Dead, so I can have a wide board state with another flyer on it. Not that I really want to double block the Bloodsworn here, because if I can get Topplegeist to Delirium, that can keep the Bloodsworn under control by itself. It's going to be hard to get to Delirium, though. Oh my god. Distended Mindbender just makes us discard our whole hand. Well, talk about a bomb rare. They have a 5/5 on board, and we had to discard our whole hand. Alright, well... Two out of 4 for Delirium still, and I have nothing to try to make it bigger. Yeah, we don't know when we're going to hit Delirium. Let's get the double block. They could sacrifice Aristocrat, trade Aristocrat to our flyers. But they choose not to do that. Do I just make a 2/2 here so I can triple block Mindbender with my current board? Yeah, it's a better way to use our mana also. Actually, probably should have held on to the land just in case I want to discard another card to the Haunted Dead later in the game. But I do have a 5 mana and 6 mana card in the deck. Probably want to play it eventually. Oh my god, they have 3 Olivia's Bloodsworn. I'm glad to have a near Heath Chaplain in grave. Being able to block with a 1/1 flyer is going to be big. There's a deadweight as well. I think I actually deadweight the Aristocrats. Stop them from putting counters on the Bloodsworn, so we just have trades for everything on board, and now we are just both playing off the top. Olivia's Dragoon and Fury Blade Vampire. Alright. Well, that's bad. See what we can hit here. Steadfast Cathar is okay. Yeah, trades into the Fury Blade Vampire. Better than holding it for Haunted Dead. Bloodseeker off the top. Oh. We're just out of stuff. Midnight Scavengers is a big one. And now we know if we held the land to work for the Haunted Dead, we would have still just ended up playing it this turn to play Midnight Scavengers. That was the one line I would say was pretty loose. And luckily didn't get punished for that. Take a Topplegeist here. Let me take a Dragoon of my own. What do I need in my grave for Delirium? I need a land. I guess that was the other thing I could have done, was sacking a land to the Purge to try to hit that Delirium. That might have changed things around a little bit throughout the game. I don't know if it would have been better or worse, though. I take a Dragoon here because it's big enough to 1-for-1 trade into their Dragoon if I draw something expendable to discard to it. And just the Bloodseeker. Kind of have to block with Scavengers. It's basically a 3/1. But if I block with a 1/1 Spirit, then they'll just keep it as a 1/3 and kill a spirit for free. If I don't block, I go to 4. Might be better to pick up Haunted Dead than it is to play Dragoon. Play Dragoon, I know I have a blocker for their Dragoon. If I play Haunted Dead, I have 3 1/1 flyers. I can double block a Dragoon, single block 1 Bloodsworn. And I have a 2/2 on the board tap. No, yeah, their whole board basically has flying. I think I just need to play the 2/2 flyer. Still got a shot here. Our board states are now even. They're drawing cards before us, though. And they have the lead in the life total. Alright, trade Dragoons. Some Merciless Resolve, that's a big draw. That's a huge draw. Alright, sack a land, draw 2. Well, pick up a Haunted Dead. It's instant speed, right? Yes, it is. I've already hit my 5-drop. I haven't hit my 6-mana spell. There's one 6-mana spell in the deck that I get punished for discarding 2 lands, but I think that's okay. It's one of my 21 cards. Every other card in the deck is castable off these 4 lands that are currently on board. Yeah. Olivia's Dragoon puts them in the lead on board again. Because now I have to trade 2 spirits into that, or just take 2. Trade 2 spirits into that. I have 1 spirit to fight a Bloodsworn, a 2/2 to just chip at them with. I think I take the 2 and have the double spirit blocker for Dragoon if they give it flying. This way we force them to give it to flying to get an attack in with it again. Otherwise we just Haunted Dead. Don't think I should expect a lot of power 4 or greater creatures out of the black-red deck. So I think I should just cast this immediately to get a counter on my whole board. And then I can just trade a single 1/1 spirit into the Dragoon. Instead of having to use 2. Yeah, I think I need to just cast this. I guess I start chipping in with Haunted Dead. If I just hold it as a blocker and they draw something with Madness or a land, and they just hop Dragoon into the sky anyway and the dead can't block. Take our 1-for-1 trade. Get a Drogskull Shieldmate. Other creatures control it +0/+. That could be very big with the double Bloodsworn. Because they're going to attack in with 2 2/1s. And I play this, buff the spirits to 2 3s. So we just eat both of the Bloodsworns. We eat a double Bloodsworn there. Oh my god. Oh my god. Alright, that's not good. So the Bloodsworns have first strike now. They can give the captain haste. Which means they attack all here. Play a Shieldmate. We get to eat the captain. They can first strike away a spirit, but we can kill the other, but we go down to 2. This is probably better than Chump Chump. Because then I still have a spirit to block the next Bloodsworn next turn. Hit for 7, we're 1 damage off. I guess maybe I was supposed to chump there, and then I could crack back for lethal. No, chumping and double blocking, I still lose 1 creature either way. So yeah, this is as many creatures as I could have had out on the board and still survived. So they get one more draw step. We'll see what they get. Oh, I shouldn't have. Oh my god, I should have just attacked with one creature because the Bloodsworn can give any top decked vampire haste even if it doesn't have flying. Alright, doesn't matter. They top decked removal, so they kill us anyway. Oh, that was an impressively close game. That game was really, really bad from the start. The MVP of the game by far was this Distended Mindbender, putting a 5/5 on their board and making us discard our entire hand. Discarding 2 cards there. Fell really far behind from that point on. So really surprising we got to grind it out to a point where we got them down to 3. Really, really close there. I don't think I played it out perfectly. I did bring up a lot of the misplays throughout the game, but I don't think that any of the misplays put us in a position where we're losing here, where we wouldn't have either way. Because the main misplay was just playing the land instead of holding it. And I wouldn't have ended up discarding it because I would have ended up just playing the land for scavengers later in the game anyway. The only other option was maybe purging early. I don't think that was a misplay at all. Sacking the creature to the purge instead of a land. It's just the game would have went a different direction. It was an alternate path to take. I think it worked out fine sacking the creature. I don't know for sure how it would have went if we sacked the land. Because we did end up hitting a deadweight relatively quickly after that, so we might have been able to get to that Topplegeist Delirium and try to get some action off of that. But yeah, because that would change Delirium, and that would change how much mana I had for spells and stuff, that would pretty dramatically change the course of the game, so it's a lot more nebulous, a lot harder to find out if that play would have led to us being in a much better position, or maybe even in a bit of a worse position. So I don't know about that one, but definitely should have held the land instead of just running it out. There was no reason to play it out early. Then the other thing was I probably should have attacked a little less aggressively because their only creature on board couldn't block anyway. So I don't think I should have attacked with Shieldmate on this last turn, just hit with Haunted Dead. So we could survive them playing a Haste Vampire off of the Bloodsworn. Outside of that, though, I think I played about as well as I could. Got as far as we could there. Getting them all the way down to 3 after they went for some just pretty fast, pretty explosive plays. So yeah, the fact that we were still in that game that long, get them that low, I think it's a good sign for our deck, even if it is a loss in round 1. Here we are in game 2. Pretty solid curve here. 2 into 3 into 4. I will go for it. Drop a Dragoon, pass the turn. Opponents on blue-red, they start with a Curious Homunculus, which is luckily a 1/1 and not a 2/1, so we can still attack into that freely. Pass the turn, play our Drogskull Shieldmate during their end step. Insolent Neonate, they can discard that to draw a card. Or sacrifice it, discard a card, draw a card. Just drop the Shieldmate. They do have 3 mana up for instants because of Homunculus's abilities. They could have the Convolute counter unless I pay 4. I think I'm still supposed to just run out the Outrider here because it's not that likely that they have that. And if they don't, playing Outrider is infinitely better than playing anything else this turn. They do not have the Convolute. Oh my god, we hit triple land sorcery. So we don't get to draw a card off of Outrider. That is a pretty massive bummer. But apparently whatever's in our opponent's hand is an even bigger bummer. And we're just going to get a free victory there. Going to go ahead and be 1-1 as we move into the next game. Alright, I'll take it. Heading into game 3 now. Here we are on the play for game 3. This is one of the potentially scariest hands we've drawn all day. This looks really nice. Could go Topplegeist into Cathar into Slayer. I do ideally want to hit a deadweight before I hit Slayer. But we could go turn 3 Inspector plus sack the clue. I think I am going to play Topplegeist turn 1, even though I can tap a creature with it for value. It's probably better to just get the flyer on the board instead, so it doesn't really matter what blockers they play. I don't need to tap anything, I can just chip in for 1 damage. Over and over and over. We do ideally need to hit a land here. We need to make it to 3 mana, but from 3 mana onward we are sold. We are solid. Olivia's Bloodsworn, that can't block, and we did hit the 3rd mana. Could go for an Ironclad Slayer. I'd rather Inspector draw a card here, though. And this collective effort could end up being massive. If they don't have a ton of cheap removal, we just make a very wide board state, then put a counter on the whole board. Another black-red deck that we're playing against here, so we probably don't get to destroy anything, but we do get to put a counter on our whole board. Alright, take 2 from their Olivia's Bloodsworn. They're going to play a Kindly Stranger. Alright, very good if they get Delirium. Doesn't do much if they don't. Let's draw a card off of our clue. Hit a Ghoul Caller's Accomplice, and hit the 4th land. We can play a Nearheath Chaplain now. And I think that will be the play. Alternatively, if I collective effort, Cathar attacks as a 3/4. So it can get in here, and Topolgeist hits for 2 in the sky. I would really just rather play the Chaplain, I think. See what our opponent has for their turn 4. They do have their 4th land. Attack in for 2 in the sky. Down to 16. Pass the turn. We've got an Angelic Purge now. Can exile the Kindly Stranger to hit them with everybody else. Don't love sacking a land right now. But I guess everything in my hand is 3 or less mana. If I just sack a swamp, Purge is fine. Probably better to just sack a Thraben Inspector, but I also don't love sacking creatures with a collective effort in the hand. They have 4 mana up, but they don't have a discard outlet, so they can't play an instant speed Madness card. It'd be like instant speed burn spells. Oh, yeah, I guess I'm gonna Purge Inspector out of here. I again have that Topolgeist where if I get a land engrave that is helpful for Delirium, but feels pretty bad to put myself back down to 3 mana on board. Currently at a board state where if I hit 1 more land, I can play 2 cards in 1 turn, which is a pretty big deal. Accomplice plus effort, something like that. I really don't want to go down a land here. Alchemist's Greeting, just a hard cast on the Chaplain, fair enough. Land, land, land. Oh. Alright, I would love to go land Chaplain, but Deadweight Chaplain also pretty good, or just Deadweight Slayer. I'm going to go for a wider board state, though, with the collective effort in hand. We'll Deadweight and do the Chaplain. It's 1 less power immediately, but then 1 more power if I'm putting a counter on everything. Another Alchemist Greeting, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. We'll go for it. Dead on board. And we will find lethal. We are now going to be 2-1 as we head into a game number 4. Alright, here we are for game 4. It's a mono-colored hand, which is awkward. If we hit a swamp, it's really nice. If we don't hit a swamp, we still have Topolgeist into Cathar. Potentially a Purge later. I'm gonna keep it. Got a little bit of time to hit a land. Collective effort is the draw. Doesn't help too much, but it could be powerful later. It's not very good for us right now. Nor is Deadweight. Alright, so you get to keep chipping in for damage at least, but that is 2 fails at hitting any land. Already a little rough not to find a swamp, but super rough if we hit 0 lands, then we can't even just play one of these other white spells. Dauntless Cathar. there's the swamp. Only missed for 1 turn, so that's nice. Deadweight gets an enchantment in our grave, but I don't love killing the Cathar because they get a flyer out of it, but they have to spend 2 mana to do that. And it's a sorcery speed, 2 mana. Yeah, it feels better than playing Accomplice right now. We get to get our full attack in, and if they want to make the flyer, they have to spend 2 of their mana at sorcery speed during their turn. And then I can just deadweight the flyer as well. Although I'm kind of tempted to deadweight the Sigardian Priest. Another Dauntless Cathar, okay. Well, got the mana to play Deadweight and Collective Effort, or Deadweight and Angelic Purge, but those are the only ways I can cast 2 spells in 1 turn, and I don't really want to do those 2 spells. I guess I could Deadweight the Priest and Purge the Cathar to keep hitting. And then I still have Collective Effort if they play a big scary creature that needs to be dealt with. It probably has power 4 or greater. I guess that is our line. Now they tap the Topplegeist probably. Alright, cool. We still hit them for 2. Now we're closer to Delirium. 3 out of 4 card types. We just need to get a creature engrave and we're there. Fiendbinder. That is not big enough to kill with Collective. Now it is. Alright, thank you, opponent. Now it is big enough. So how do I escalate? Tap an untapped creature I control. Destroy creature power 4 or greater. Put a counter on each creature I control. Alright, cool. Tap the smaller creature. Hit for 3. Pass the turn. Faithbearer Paladin, a 3/4 lifelink. Got a Merciless Resolve here to see what we draw into. It is my first instant, which does put me at Delirium for Topplegeist to just keep tapping the Paladin during their upkeep. That is actually massive. Do I have any more double white cards in the deck? No, my only double white card was Collective Effort, so I'm going to sack a Plains here. That way, if I draw any basic, I get to play Accomplice as well this turn. Okay, didn't hit any basic, but I hit it. Well, yeah, I mean, I think I tapped and sacked correctly there. We just get punished by Inspector. I think it's more likely we draw any basic than that we draw one of our Inspectors. Yeah, what can you do about that? Alright, tap the Faithbearer Paladin. They're down to 6. We've got 3 more cards to play now. I do need to hit another land to play the Outrider. But if they can't deal with Topplegeist, we get to keep tapping down their lifelinker every turn. So there's a Griff's Boon to make the Spirit big enough to block Topplegeist, so I don't really get to get in with that. I can only play 1 creature this turn. I think I would... What do I want to play here? I hit them down to 3 life. Straight up. Because they're not going to chump. I mean, maybe they will. It's not really good for them either way. Alright, so they're down to 3 life. So if Topplegeist just taps Paladin, they have this to block that. They need to play a blocker to block Cathar. If I could play a 3-power creature, I would love to, but since I can't, I think it's probably better to play Inspector, draw a card. And I'm going to draw the card right now. So if well, actually we could... No, it's better to play Inspector and play a 2/2. I'm a doofus. Better to play Inspector and another creature. That way, even if they just play another creature, they go block, block, take 3, and still have lethal on board. I completely blanked on the fact that I could just play a 1-drop and a 2-drop creature there. That's definitely better. than playing the 1-drop and drawing a card, but it is going to get us there. We are now 3-1. Very nice comeback from the 0-1 start. We are now at least getting a 50-50 run, a 3-3 at worst, and if we can keep it up, then we can break even or better today. So great stuff from the white-black Value Town deck as we head into game number 5. Alright, here we are for game 5. Hand looks pretty great. We've got Olivia's Dragoon or Steadfast Cathar to play on turn 2. We have a Deadweight if they play a good creature early. We can throw it into the graveyard. And then we have a Courageous Outrider on turn 4 for a great value play in the late game. And a Nearheath Chaplain now. That's pretty sweet. So our opponent's on green-red. They're going to start with a Hinterland Logger on turn 2. Pretty scary if it flips to the nighttime mode. But even then it only has 2 toughness, so we can still deadweight it later. So I would rather, I think, keep playing creatures on curve for now. Be okay trading Dragoon into the Logger. Again, we're like a great late game value deck. So I think we need to be open to taking trades early. I should probably also just trade Cathar into Logger if they offer it. Alright, they're just going to burn the Cathar to death. Get in for 2. Play an Ulvenwald Captive. Alright, I think it's better, especially, alright, if I draw Ironclad Slayer, then good lord, do I get to do just whatever I want here. But I was going to say, I think it's better to just deadweight the Captive, because that can be a 4-6 later, which is harder to deal with than a 4-2 Trample, and this thing is less consistently big. Whereas once they flip the Captive, it's just forever a 4-6. But yeah, now I can just play Dragoon and shoot the Mana Dork to keep them from playing a 5-mana card next turn, and then just Ironclad Slayer back the deadweight to kill the Logger at a later time. I mean, I'll take the trade on board if they offer it, and then just hold the deadweight for later in the game. Imagine green-red Werewolf aggro has more 2 toughness cards they'll play if they top deck them later. But they don't go for an attack. They're just going to pass the turn, get it to flip to night, and there you go. There's the mana to just kill that Timber Shredder, which I think I will just do here. I'll go ahead and hit for 2 first. I'll offer the trade. See if they want to use any kind of weird tricks. Whoa, auto tapper, excuse me. We need a black source up, thank you very much. Let's slay the Shredder. They've got 2 cards in hand, we've got 3 in hand and 2 on board. Feels like an advantageous position overall. We've got an Angelic Purge if they have a really big wolf to play later in the game. Feel like we're in a great position here. So hit for 5, play our, well, actually don't need lifelink that much. I'll actually play the Outrider to draw another card here potentially. Alright, get a Ghoul Caller's Accomplice. Solid stuff. Opponent still has nothing. I wonder what they've been drawn into. Pack Guardian, my favorite card in the format. Back at it again to get me really badly. They kill Olivia's Dragoon. Ironclad Slayer. I guess Shieldmate's pretty good here. We don't get to save Dragoon, but we get to save the Slayer while still playing a creature for the turn. Alright. Decent way to counteract the Pack Guardian. That's not devastating here. We are still in the lead. And then a Howlpack Wolf from our opponent. Topplegeist seems pretty great. I can hit them for 8 if I Topplegeist and Angelic Purge. And I'll be at Delirium. Yeah, even though I have a 4-drop in hand, that seems worth it. To have a Delirious Topplegeist on the board. Plus the Howlpack Wolf can't even block if I kill the Pack Guardian. So now we have a Delirious Topplegeist, which means we tap down one of their creatures during their upkeep every turn. And the only creature left on their board can't attack unless they draw another creature. So this feels pretty excellent. So they top deck, we have lethal on board unless they immediately hit a good blocker, or removal spell at instant speed or something like that. Let's see what they've got. Send in the squad. They did top deck a removal spell, so they are still alive, going down to 2. Play the Near Heath Chaplain, because I don't have double black for the 2 accomplices. Actually, probably should have kept double black. My thinking there was that I have that powerful double white rare, so I want to make sure I can cast that, but actually with two 2-mana black cards in the hand, I should have just kept 2 swamps on board, sacked a plains, because we know that we could end up with 4 lands on board where we want to play 2 accomplices in 1 turn. Either way, still going to be a very advantageous board state there, and they do not draw an out to it, so we will now be 4-1, breaking even in the draft, getting at least 1,400 gems and 3 packs as prizes. Great stuff as we move into round number 6. Here we are on the play for game 6. Got Thraben Inspector. I can sack the Clue turn 2 looking for lands. If I hit lands on curve, the hand's pretty good, but I have nothing to return with Ironclad Slayer. I don't want to play Merciless Resolve till later in the game. I don't want to play Purge till later in the game. I don't have anything to discard to the Haunted Dead. It's actually not the greatest hand ever. Might actually mulligan this because there's some awkward stuff going on with Purge, Resolve, and Slayer. This hand's pretty slow, but pretty high value. Cathar into Outrider. Keep it. Don't think it's worth a mulligan to 5. Alright, let's keep this, keep our double white. And curve Cathar into Outrider, see where it goes from there. Opponent took a mulligan as well. They are also playing white. Alright, that's a great start to our draws. We immediately hit a 2-mana play, so now we get to curve out 2, 3, 4, and it's pretty good. Feels like what you want to do in draft. Send in our Steadfast Cathar. We might just be 2 ships passing in the night here, no blocks all game long. Actually kind of okay just trading Cathar off aggressively in this deck. So Guardian Priest is the next play. Okay. Send in Cathar, it gets in. Play the Outrider. Yikes. We've had the saddest Courageous Outriders. We have more than 10... We have more than 10 humans in the deck, which means on average, looking at 4 cards, we'll see at least 1. Because approximately 1 out of every 4 cards in the deck is a human. Yeah, I think we have 11 humans total, but one of them is the Outrider, which obviously doesn't count. So I guess the problem there is we already drew 2 of our humans, so there were 8 left in those cards. Or, yeah, 8 left, I think. That's not a great draw. It's okay, though. We're not under any pressure. What did they sacrifice? They sacked a land, alright. So they're down on mana here. I'll just keep chipping away with the stuff we've got here. If they play anything big and scary, we can purge it. But we're kind of just sitting here waiting to draw into something. Hopefully they're in a similar position. If they sacked a land that aggressively, I assume they had another. Drag Under was very, very good value for them there. Being able to kill our spirit and draw a card. It's pretty horrendous for us. Very good 2-for-1 in a position where we are already behind in cards just from hitting a lot of lands. Alright, we can kill a Drog Skull Captain with the Purge. Probably worth it. I'm definitely going to sack a land. No way I want to sack a Clue for it, but I think I'm going to play Inspector first and see if I top deck a Deadweight, because I'd rather play a Deadweight than a Purge and save the Purge for a better card. Okay. Yeah, so we do just Purge the Captain. Actually, probably should have done it pre-combat, to be fair. Because there's no way they would chump block. So by attacking in before I purge, all I'm doing is letting them trade a combat trick into Cathar if they want to. Well, Priest can't tap anything. Cathar's not big enough to kill the Scab, but it'll trade into the Priest. I think we have enough humans in our deck. I don't even want to kill the Priest. I'm going to keep these lands in hand at this point. I have way more than enough. And we have a card in our deck that lets us discard 2 lands. We'll discard 2 cards to return itself from the graveyard to the battlefield. I will save them in case we hit that. Should probably play one of them. Guess I could have hit them for 1 damage since I'm not blocking at all. Plays poorly into instant speed creatures or combat tricks, but I think I probably should have just chipped in for 1 damage last turn, put them to 9. Gonna be a lot of passing the turn here, if all we hit are lands. Yeah, Rattle Chains is going to speed up that clock a lot. We found a non-land, but it's not very good here because it doesn't blow up anything they have, and I only have 2 creatures on the board. Feels like I probably still have to use it, so I'm less likely to get blown out double blocking the Scab. The reason I haven't been double blocking the Scab is because losing my entire board state to kill 1 creature isn't good already, and if they had any instant speed card, like just instant speed draw a card, that's all it says, then they just blow me out because they have a 3/4. Which means that I don't even kill it. Oh, this is not good. I don't even think collective effort's very good here, but I think I have to do it. Rather than doing nothing here. Let's see what they've got. Yeah, that's a blowout. I guess they don't get to kill both of them without losing the Scab, but we don't get to kill the Scab, and they get to kill the Cathar and draw a card. I think it's too late for you, buddy. We've got a 3/1 lifelinker, but I guess it does trade into Scab at least and then give us spirits to block Rattle Chains. This might work if they are out of stuff. I guess they can use Sigardian Priest, but we'll have 2 flyers. Oh, come on. Really? Have the exact right removal for that, where it doesn't put it in our graveyard and it stops all the lifelink. Oh. At least Dragoon can try to trade for the Rattle Chains. You top deck another instant here. Yeah, I guess they can Priest the Dragoon. Yeah, at this point, if they top decked another instant, just gonna let him have it. If I can get the 1-for-1 trade, that's pretty good. And if I don't block, I'm just dead, so obviously I have to send that there. They do have the Shield Mate to save the Scab and eat our Inspector. 2 blockers total is not enough to win the game. Is it? They priest down Dragoon. So I block with a... I guess I have 3 blockers, because this doesn't come into play tapped the turn I play it. So they just tap Dragoon or the Spirit, and I can still trade into Rattle Chains. I'm not going to have a good block for Scab or Shieldmate. Yeah, I have no good blocks for the 2/3s. Oh, they're just going to pass turn. Okay. Find a Deadweight. If I Deadweight Rattle Chains, Priest taps Haunted Dead and then Dragoon after they untap. They attack me with 2 2/3s, I go chump chump. If I Deadweight the Scab, Priest taps the Spirit now, then the Dragoon during their turn, and then Rattle Chains gets in for 2. And we just trump a Shieldmate. If I Deadweight the Priest, they tap down the Spirit token now. Next turn we block Rattle Chains with Dragoon. And then I still go chump chump. No matter what I do, it's just not good. I think I Deadweight the Priest though, but like barely. That seems like the best of 3 bad options. Alright, well, I kind of have to not go to 1 life. Another Dauntless Cathar, that's not ideal. Oh, we've got our 2 lands for Haunted Dead. Yeah, I mean, without the Priest on the board, they don't get to tap down our creatures that have recursive abilities from the graveyard. So they kind of have to wait until they can removal spell into lethal to get any attacks in. Alright, Thraben Inspector is definitely a great draw, gives them another creature on board and another draw off the top of their deck. Alright, they are going to pass turn. Midnight Scavengers is a really big draw. Although my 2 options are Olivia's Dragoon and Thraben Inspector, so I think I'm just picking up a Thraben Inspector. But that is a good draw. It's a big one. I guess there's a Steadfast Cathar I could choose as well. Could play the Plains so I can Deadweight this turn if I draw into 1. I think I'd rather keep it in hand because we've got a Haunted Dead. I'm just going to clue first. Alright, it's just another land. Another Thraben Inspector. Now is the point, I just did a count real quick, where we should have basically all gas, because we already dunked 2 lands to the bottom early game. There's 2 in our graveyard, and 11 right here. So there's only 2 lands in all of these unrevealed cards. So 2 lands out of those 10. So we get a lot of gas here. This is where we can start turning the corner. And it is likely to get a lot of gas here. Alright, there is 1 land in those There's one land in those 9 cards. Do here 4 attackers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers. I don't really want to not have a flying blocker. I think I attack with Haunted Dead. Because if they kill it, that's still good for me, and if they don't, then we're chipping in for damage. Oh, Topplegeist probably kills us unless we hit a deadweight here. Still have 2 deadweights in the deck. Angelic Purge as well, Certain Death. Tons of gas. Ironclad Slayer as well would pick up the deadweight from our grave. Got a ton of removal spells, a ton of outs here. Unless they have double removal right now, then we're dead. I guess we're not dead, but not in a good spot. See if they have an instant here. Yeah, Topplegeist was huge. They're going to tap down a flyer no matter what. Yeah, I have to hit gas here. I have to not hit my last land off the top. All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm dead then. Can't do anything about the Topplegeist here. There might have been some other lines throughout that game, but that did not feel particularly winnable in the end. We head into game number 7. Alright, here we are for game 7 on the play. Yeah, a couple creatures early. I don't like having Resolve or Purge in the opening hand, which makes me almost want to mulligan it just because of that, but I think we will keep here. See what we draw into. Ooh, Nearheath Chaplain is a great one. Fantastic card to play turn 4. Obsessive Skinner for the 2-mana 2/2. If they hit Delirium, they start putting counters on the rest of their board over and over and over again. Offer that early trade, and they are going to take it. Pretty cool with me. We'll drop our Dauntless Cathar and pass the turn. Another great top deck for us there. Especially if we hit a land this turn where we get to curve Cathar into Chaplain. Well, now if I don't hit a land, I still have a play, so we'll just replay the Cathar then. Four mana from our opponent, and Noose Constrictor is the play. They'd need to discard 2 cards to beat the Cathar in combat, so we'll send it in. And it gives us value from the graveyard anyway. Alright, no blocks, we hit for 3. Play the Swamp, play the Nearheath Chaplain. Grapple with the Past from our opponent. They're going to mill 3, pick up a creature or a land to put into their hand. Pick up a land. I don't like that. They really need a 5th mana for something, or a 6th mana if they have more lands in hand. That is not ideal. Means they've got some big spells coming up. There's a Fog Walker to lock down the Dauntless Cathar, and a Drag Under to bounce the Nearheath Chaplain. Doing a lot of tempo stuff here, just keeping us from hitting them. Still haven't presented any threats yet. But I am sure they've got some big endgame stuff. They might be a deck that plays the thing that makes a 2/2 zombie for each instant and sorcery in her grave. That might be their finisher. But they are doing a swell job staying alive here. Unfortunately, we've hit 1 swamp and we've hit 1 plains and 4 swamps, so I can't play Inspector plus Chaplain, which is what I really want to do here. I think I'm just supposed to play Chaplain anyway, even though I can't double spell with it. Alright, Rabid Bite the Chaplain. I still have its ability in the graveyard. They're going to send in for 3, down to 15. And the Wretched Gryff, 3/4 flyer. They draw a card when they cast it. Pretty big spell, pretty big blocker. Probably want to purge the Wretched Gryff. Could sack a Ghoul Caller's Accomplice to do it, or I could sack... Well, I can't sack a clue token from Inspector because we only have 1 Plains. Yeah, 1 Plains means we gotta just play Accomplice and sack that to the purge. Or sack a Swamp. 5 mana. 3, 4, 5. I can double spell. I can also go 3 and a 2-drop. Yeah, no, 5 mana is kind of important. Sack the Accomplice. Hit for 3. Second Wretched Gryff from our opponent. Does show off what the late game's going to be for their deck. There's the second Plains, so now I can play Inspector and get some flyers off the Chaplain. Need to find a way to kill this Gryff pretty soon, but I think I can spend a turn drawing cards here and just setting up the board. Weirding Wood, they're going to get a clue token. Get some mana ramp there. Mayor of Avabrook, that card is horrifically powerful, but we've got 3 deadweights in the deck to deal with that. Got 1 certain death to try to kill the Gryff, and Collective Defiance or whatever it is. I guess that doesn't kill Gryff because it's based on power, not toughness. Yeah, we've got a lot of removal spells in this deck. Gonna have to use a Merciless Resolve to dig for them. I think I'm cool to sack a land here. And then if we hit a Topplegeist, it's gonna have Delirium for sure. Creature land, instant sorcery. Collective Effort, that's the name of that one. Yeah, power 4 or greater, so I can't kill the Wretched Gryff. But this is still going to be really good, putting a +1/+1 counter on our whole board. That could still find a way to kill our opponent. So let's try to deadweight the Mayor. Alright, it is going to resolve. And then we'll play another creature, go for a Steadfast Cathar. Yeah, just try to make a really wide board state and then buff the whole board. That is the idea. Cryptolith Fragment. That'll damage both of us every time they tap it. Harvest Hand, that one doesn't matter too much. But this, once they get to each player having 10 or less, turns into a 1/4 flying Death Touch that shoots me for 3 every time it attacks, which is terrifying. I don't think our board state's big enough for Collective Effort lethal yet still. This Fragment's gonna pop off. And Effort's never going to be like lethal immediately, but just over time it could be. Let's go Raffrat's Accomplice, hold the Plains if I need to discard. Later on, maybe. So we'll have 7 attackers potentially against 3 blockers. So 4 get in for 2 damage apiece, but then they would crack back for lethal, so yeah. Collective Effort, like, it's definitely going to be good, but still maybe a little sketchy. They're just going to send in with the Wretched Gryff, put us to 10. Sure. They still have to go down to 10 themselves for the Fragment to flip. This fragment is such a huge deal. It's hitting me for 4 on the crackback by itself. Griff's hitting me for 3, so 4, 5, 6, 7 on the crackback. It hits for 1 right now by making each player lose a life. Why can't this destroy an artifact? Or a creature with toughness 4 or greater? Collective effort has been really strong in some games, but we have hit some really bad matchups for it. I don't think I even blow up their enchantment. I'd rather keep all my creatures untapped. Alright, I need to not die on the crackback. And they're attacking for 7 damage in this guy. Maybe I just hold back all my flying blockers. Oh. Well, okay then. I guess we lose. Yeah, now I just straight up don't have attacks. They just keep making me lose life with Fragment and shoot me with the Griff for 3. Kills me very, very quickly. I guess I just deadweight the Griff. And theoretically I can double block the Griff. I don't think there's any reason to deadweight anything else. Yeah, and they're gonna get another 4 toughness flyer that I'll need to double block with 2 spirits ideally. Actually, by the time this thing flips, it's just gonna die. It's just gonna kill us when it declares the attack. Yeah, no, we're just dead to Fragment. That is so sad. I cry every time. When it attacks, each opponent loses 3. Yep, it doesn't have Summoning Sickness because it has been on the board for 1,000,000 turns. That is just the game. Well, those were some frustratingly long and depressing final games to end it off for the last 2 losses there. But still a great record for the deck. I think 4-3 is super reasonable for this. Because I don't think we had an excellent draft pod here where we could have ended up in any super premium deck. So just getting a nice little average mid-rangey archetype was probably one of our best bets there, and it ended up with just a very average deck. So I expect to see an average run out of it. It's just the way that we lost those last 2 games that was a pretty big bummer. Just some pretty drawn out games where we weren't finding anything great off the top. But it happens. Overall, no big under or overperformers today, I think. Everything did its job, supported the deck well. There's nothing incredible, nothing terrible. I guess Graph Rats was pretty terrible because we never got it alongside the Midnight Scavengers. But yeah, everything else was pretty fine. Merciless Resolve and Double Purge. Having tons of these kind of cards is a bit awkward because having 2 of them in the opening hand was always pretty bad. And that happened kind of frequently where we'd have an opening hand with a Purge and a Resolve, and it's like, well, we just can't play these early in the game. Those are always pretty awkward, pretty risky, but the idea behind them was that they were kind of like more 6 mana removal. After we grind out all these, then we start putting lands in the grave for Delirium and just for value plays. So that was the idea there, but we kept drawing them early and needing to cast them early, which was always not ending up super well, but overall good stuff from the deck. Nice 4 and 3 run, break even. Today I will absolutely take it, grab my 1400 gems, my 3 packs, and move on. That is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.